All right. So again, new week, new opportunity. Weekly outlook. We just do this call primarily just to make sure everybody's in alignment, ready for a new week. And just starting out with NASDAQ, I do feel like we'll start the week off pretty bullish overall, right? Now, just because we bullish overall, that don't mean that we can't get some interesting price action in order to get into our buys, right? I do think there's a chance that the market can actually drop first prior to getting into our buy positions. I would love to get into a buy underneath these lows here. I am aware that we did already come and grab the lows right there, so I'm aware of that. However, me just looking out to the left and seeing, a relatively equal low right there, it kind of makes me feel like this strong low is a trap because we got an equal low over here. So with us having that equal low over there, I'm actually hoping that we can get a drop one more time in order to target these lows right here. All right. So now the question is, how are we going to get into that area, right? I've already determined what I'd like to see happen. So now it's just about, how do we even find our way into a position like that? And again, you want to be able to find strong highs, to lead you down to your targets. All right. So I already know where I want to go. Now I'm just really analyzing the highs to see is there any high that I could trust to get me to underneath these lows here. I wouldn't really feel comfortable selling where the market currently is. I look at this high, this high is pretty interesting because it does push into a lower time frame, internal range liquidity, right? Which I can appreciate. I could appreciate that. However, when I look at this high, it just kind of makes me wonder, do we want to come back for that high point, right? Well, in one or two ways, I think we could either grab this high here and get a sell like from here, or we may even come and attack that high to get a potential sell. That's really what I'm looking for. And once we get a sell, I want us to make a stronger low than what we have already. Again, I see the strong low here, but I also see the target liquidity over here. So I think this initial demand zone can be a trap. So if I think it could be a trap, I want to find a way to actually trade towards it instead of away from it, right? So the only way I can get towards that or trade towards it is by, me finding a solid area of supply, right? So when I look at, this high, I'm like, I'm not gonna sell it from here. I'm not gonna really feel comfortable selling it from there. We got some equal highs up here, so at the very least, I need to come up here. But even when I look all the way to the left, I see that high. Yeah, we reacted from it once, but I don't know if that supply zone is strong enough for me to react from it twice. All right. So I'm actually looking for this level. Obviously, if you depending on what broker you use, you might have slightly different prices, but just me going based off this chart that I have marked up, I would love for us to come to like say the 29,493 area. Obviously, you might want to mark this up on your chart as well just to make sure um, we looking at the same areas. Well, yeah, I would look for this market to essentially, go up a little bit higher, right? I may entertain this supply zone here, but again, I don't think that this supply zone is strong enough to give me two reactions from it to go that far on the sell side. I think that this zone will probably act as a trap overall. We run through that high, all right, and possibly get a reaction from up here. Now, obviously, I do know that we got some equal highs up there as well. I'm just hoping that that could be target liquidity after the buys happen. So, I'm kind of I'm gonna wait on that one, right? We might target it, we might not. Initially for the sale, I'm looking at this. If I have to have a backup plan, we could potentially get this. I don't think it'll go that high though. But if it does, I'll be prepared for it, right? So when I'm trading, I like to have like a, perspective of what I believe will happen, but also, having that backup plan is necessary, right? You might have to look, two, three moves in the future potentially. You might have to look at, okay, if the trade that I want fails, what backup trade can I actually look at? That makes sense, right? So, that's one thing right there. Hold on. Alrighty. So yeah, like I was saying, y'all, it's just really about being flexible in our approach. All right. So primarily, I want to take a sale right here once we run through the trap right here. But again, if I need to keep my options open, I will. All right. If I need to take a look at this higher supply zone over here to the left, so be it. That's just gonna be like my backup plan. All right. So you always want to have your trade, but you want to look at ways that you could possibly fail too. Because if you acknowledge a way that you could fail, you might be able to find your next trade opportunity rather than just looking at the markets one way, right? Like I feel like that's probably the biggest mistake that a lot of traders make. They look at the markets one way, and once it fails, they're kind of caught off guard. They're surprised. But I like to look at, two, three potential setups with the same target. All right. Because regardless if I take this trade right here or if I take this trade up here, my target is going to remain down here. So, like I always say, once you find your target, your only objective at that point is to find the way that you're going to get into the position. Once you find a way into the position, you're good to go. All right. So I could see it still happening from here or from here. Target is going to remain the same regardless. Once we get down here, I think we'll get another buy, much bigger buy. That'll probably take us significantly further. All right. Because, we had a pretty decent sell off. All right. We had a pretty decent sell off after pushing up here. And I could just really see us targeting lower prices, right? This initially, but even, coming down to knock out that internal liquidity, I think that could be interesting. And if we go lower, we go lower. I'm not going to bank on that happening, but, at the very least, this target liquidity is what I'm focused on this week. Like I said, if we go lower than that, we go lower than that. But um, I'm not really like, putting all my eggs in that basket, right? All right. Taking a look at gold. Obviously, gold has been super bullish. Last week, I know we were like somewhere in here, I believe. And yeah, gold just has been on this tear, right? For me personally, you know, I got a love-hate relationship with gold because I feel like when gold is moving right, it obviously provides a lot of beautiful opportunities. But there are times where gold is just kind of moving in one direction. It's not providing a lot of retracements. And you got to be real strategic with how you catch these gold continuations, right? Um, Main difference with gold and like another currency, and it's kind of similar with indices as well. It's like, you might have a demand zone down here, for example, that you want to get filled, and you just waiting for that demand zone to get filled. Once the market makes a high right here, like the market can make a new high, and then you say, okay, I'm gonna wait for this retracement. It never happens. Market makes another high. Okay, I'm gonna wait for this retracement. Never happens. Another high, never happens. Another high, retracement never happens. And after a while, it's kind of like sometimes these moves never actually get fulfilled the way that you think they will, right? So I feel like the best way to trade gold especially when it's running in one direction, is you just got to catch those shallow retracements. And if you get a steep one, so be it, right? Like if it happens, it happens, but you can't really bank on it happening, right? Like even this, for example, like I would love for us to, come and let's say clear out this low and run into this footprint potentially, right? It's not a beautiful setup, but I'm just trying to give y'all an example of what I would like to see happen. But if gold is just pumping, that might not ever happen, right? Because gold moves when it wants to move. This is what we saw all last year, pretty much, and it was difficult to even catch a move on it, truth be told. I mean, literally like all of 2025, even much of 2024 as well. And this ever since the war started, this was October 7th, right, of 2023. This is when the situation in Gaza and Israel and stuff, that's when all that started. And since the day it started, we've just been extremely bullish on gold, as you can see. It's crazy to see that gold was $1,800 when this happened, and now we've been on we've eclipsed 5,000 just in the past couple years. So it's crazy to say, but I feel like if gold is about to continue on that bull run, and like let's just say that this was a retracement, right? Because the market was bullish and it just had to give you a break eventually, right? Like it eventually had to give a break eventually. I think this market could very well be continuing on its bullish run. And I know I got a lot on my charts. I'll try to find y'all something cleaner for now. All right. All right, that's much better. So I think if the market is bullish, then it's just gonna keep pumping. And we gotta find opportunities on the lower time frames on those retracements. So that's that. All right. So based off where we are right now, um I would hope that we can get a reaction from the supply zone. I do not think that it's gonna make a new low. All right. I don't think it's going nothing like that is gonna happen. But if we can get some sort of reaction to actually get into a higher low position, that would be beneficial. All right. Because now we could actually, buy at a higher low rather than chasing buys that's just pumping. Right. So that's ideally what I'd like to see happen. I will not take this sale though, because again, if gold is pumping, then gold is going to pump. I'm not going to try to sell against that momentum at this moment. Although I would love to see the market sell off a little bit, I'm not gonna sell against this momentum. I'll rather let a higher low get created somewhere somehow, and then we can continue with that momentum right there. All right. So GBP USD. Let's just take a quick look at this. Missed a couple setups on this recently. Ever since the market started pumping, I remember we took this trade back in July, but ever since then, it's just kind of been a little, we've kind of been missing moves here and there, trying to catch tops. Even here, I tried to catch a continuation. That one didn't hit. So it's been a little frustrating. And that's what I mean when I say sometimes you want these steeper retracements and the market just literally might not give them to you. And if that's the case, then sometimes there's nothing you could do. Right? Obviously, you can try to get in on these moves, but the safe thing to do would just be to try trade something else that has a better, opportunity. So when I'm looking at this, one thing I noticed when I'm looking to the left, and like sometimes people ask, how do you anticipate an ace entry, right? So because an ace entry, especially like outer aces and stuff like that, there's nothing really to the left that you can go off of all the time, right? Sometimes there's something to the left, sometimes it's not. But one thing that really stands out is the lows that are leading into the new high. So let's say I got a high right here. Market makes some lows. Market makes another high. Market makes some higher lows. Then you get a higher high right here. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of risky to time it like that. But at the same time, you might be able to say, okay, we swept a high here, swept a high here, and then you have weak lows underneath here. So we're using the weak lows almost as a target to anticipate, all right, the potential of these higher highs getting tired out, right? Eventually burning out. So when I'm looking at something like this, all right, I see a high get created and I see a set of weak lows get created as well. Here we make a new high, then we make another set of weak lows right here. All right, then we make another high, more weak lows right here. So I'm expecting a reversal to take place. Now it's just about when, okay? When I look at this on the 5 minute chart, I don't really see an area that I'd love to sell from, right? I'm not in love with this supply zone, right? I'm not in love with this supply zone. So when I look at this, the only real explanation I can come up with is an ace entry. Okay. So I believe that the market will actually come up here and give an ace from there. And after we get that ace, I want to target the weak lows that were created on the way to that ace being created. All right. So obviously you can go further than that, but just at the very least, I would like to see where the market starts to like accumulate a bit or distribute orders. I want to see that get taken out primarily. And obviously the market could go a lot further because if this is a distribution schematic or something like that, then it should be, a pretty decent reversal. All right. So I have that, but also when I look over to the left, right, we have previous highs getting taken out. Could even use that one as well. So the market is clearly taking out some form of liquidity to the left, right? So that's always good. So the market has taken out some form of liquidity to the left, as well as these higher highs they're not they're not like impulsive moves to the upside, right? That's the other thing you got to think about, like when you're trying to anticipate if a market is slowing down. It'd be one thing a market makes a high, higher low, significantly higher high, higher low, and like the market is trending aggressively. When you see the market make a higher low, that higher high is just barely higher than the previous one, and you make a higher low, barely higher. It's kind of like, okay, it's making higher highs, but the quality of them are slowing down for a reason. And that's why you got to like analyze these lows to see if you can anticipate the ace, right? And the other way you anticipate the ace is you don't want to see a hezzy crossover here. You don't want to see a hezzy here, right? Because if you don't see the hezzy, you know the market is likely going to make a new high. And as long as you can catch the trade at a new high, you should get a reaction. Like even if you caught this one here, right? The market will react. Eventually it ends up coming back and going higher, but at least you got the reaction point to where you could protect your entry if you took the trade right there. All right. So that's the type of thing that I'm looking for. It's like the safest place to take a trade for me is going to be outside of a range. So once we take external liquidity, you time it right, you should get a good move. And even if the market wants to go higher, it's probably not going to go higher before it gives you a little bit of that move back. So you should be able to, secure a partial at least, or even go break even if possible. All right. So that's what I'd be looking for if I was y'all. on GBP USD. I'd say let's look at 1.3678. 1.3678. You can go with a 20 pip stop loss, 130 pip TP at least. Probably go further, but just like a nice little intraday setup right there. I like that. Okay. Same thing here with Euro USD. All right. Little bit different setup. All right. Little bit different setup, but the premise remains. All right. You have relative equal highs right here. You got a sweep here, but it's extremely minor, right? Very minor sweep of liquidity. You could almost even overlook it, right? Depending on the time frame that you're on. I don't think that's a real quality sweep of liquidity, right? Like if you got to second guess it and stuff, it's probably not the sweep that you're looking for. And also when I look at the move to the downside, I don't really get that clear hezzy crossover, right? You may be able to argue that you got a hesitation right here and a new low, but when I just look at the quality of it overall, I don't know. I just don't think that that's a quality hezzy crossover, right? So when I look at that, I have the same feeling about this that I have about GBP USD. I think we'll find a way to make one more push and then find a way to get into some sales up here. That's what I would like to see. All right. Because I feel like a lot of people are gonna want this one for whatever reason, right? Because they see the supply zone on the lower time frame. I know a lot of people probably gonna be eyeballing this, see the minor sweep of liquidity here. I think that just has the a nice setup for a trap. And then that's like the type of trade where you take it, you think it's perfect, but it takes you out anyway. I feel like that has those types of characteristics. So I would be looking for a sale above 1.171 area, all right? Preferably like 1.1715, probably. If we get like 5 pips above that area, I think that probably be a better opportunity. Okay. I was looking at this setup, but considering how the market opened up right there, I'm like, I'm not taking this trade right now. It depended on where the market opened up, right? Not really interested in that at the moment, but I still do think that we'll get some shorts on GBP CAD, okay? I'm expecting some sell opportunities to come into the market on these GBP pairs, right? So ultimately, when I look at this, you have a strong low hezzy crossover down here that we haven't really touched into. All right. I do think there's a chance the market goes lower than this, but at the very least, we should probably target this area as a area of internal range liquidity at the least. Okay. If it goes further, it goes further, but at the least, I feel like that's what I should be paying attention to. So now that I know the market should probably come down here, we reacted here and we reacted here. So that means that there's a pool of liquidity being built. All right. A lot of people are looking at that rejection right there, but I'm looking at it like that's a trap being created, right? You see a bounce right above internal liquidity. That's probably a trap. Okay. So now that the market is pushing up, now my question is, okay, why are we pushing up? What are we pushing up to? Because I need to find a way to get into some sales. All right. So, like I said, I had this zone here marked up, and realistically, it could still play out. But when I look over to the left, right, you got a long series of pretty weak highs here. All right. And I get it, you're not going every setup not gonna look super perfect in terms of weak highs, strong highs. I'm not overly concerned with all of these areas being taken out because I feel like the buy later will likely take it out. So that's why another reason I really want to look at that strong high that was right here. At the same time, not trying to get lost in the sauce, right? So if I look at this on a lower time frame, you got a little footprint here. So you got a little footprint, got a little hesitation in there, right? I'm not saying that this can't happen, right? Like it's not a bad setup. You still got the strong high here. You got little pockets of internal liquidity right here, that could potentially be used as a selling point. I'm open to it. I'm open to it. I typically don't like taking trades this time of day, right? I mean, it's 7:48 on the East Coast and the trade about to hit. Like, if this could just stall out a little bit till later, I'd be probably more interested in it than I am right now. But it's not to say that it can't happen, right? It's just not on the top of my priority list. Like, I probably trade something else prior to trading something like this. But if it came down to it and I had to pick a setup, like I said, it's a weekly outlook. So I just typically just look at everything. So that's just my current outlook. But again, time of day will probably keep me out of that move for now at least. All right. Um, Take a look at this. So we got a double bottom here. All right. GBP AUD. We reacted here. We reacted pretty much at the same point. So again, for me, when I see an equal low reaction, that's just building up the money that's being generated right there. So I would like to see a reason for this to drop one more time. I feel like this is either going to drop right away to get into a potential buy, or it may actually retrace to give you one more valid sell from up here because you have a somewhat of a strong high. You got a bearish footprint here. Again, not the prettiest I ever seen, but for the sake of this move and what it is we're trying to accomplish, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. All right. Market does hesitate a little bit here off of previous demand. So I can use the top of that, like 0.91, 1 point, excuse me, 1.911, right? That area right there. I think we could push up above it into this region and possibly get a nice sell-off, right? So I think either this happens, then we come down into this region, or we just come directly into this region. Like whichever one comes first, I still think we'll get a reaction from this area. All right. But it just kind of depends on what we get first. Will we get a sell before the buy, or we just get the buy all alone? All right. Um, Not really interested in GBP CHF. I mean, y'all see what happened last time we took a trade on this. It took 2 weeks for the trade to hit its target. So, for the time being, I'm gonna stay away from GBP CHF. I don't see much. I think it'll probably just keep pumping for now. I don't see a whole lot of internal liquidity in that sell down to fuel that second leg. So, I'm not gonna bank on it happening. Um, I think GCAD is, or G-Chef, excuse me, is likely to keep going to the upside. All right. So now we got GBP, GJ, okay, GBP JPY. I think this will probably keep pumping, right? Probably keep pumping. Again, looking over to the left, I don't see anything that really entices me to sell this. This push down, as aggressive as it is, a lot of people say, this is an impulse down. This is a high that made a new low, so let's just sell at a lower high point. And obviously, that's what most people would do. But again, whenever I see a big sell like that, I want to see a clear point of internal liquidity. And obviously, we got a high here that could be used as internal liquidity. But when I look at these highs here, it's like it didn't really take much to the left. You got some highs resting here, 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 here. Even up here, you got highs resting. The only reason I had this supply zone marked up is because I had a feeling that these lows would go right here, and they did, right? They just didn't go. They went just before getting that entry. So if anything, I feel like I'm a little more bullish on GJ. I feel like this was more of a derivative of some sort. There's some type of economic event that probably caused that. And now that it um, came and took out some lows, I think it may have gathered some strength to go on about its way. But yeah, I really wouldn't bank on this going too much further down. I don't really see the type of supply that typically gives me the confidence to sell off, right? And same thing with Euro JPY. I would just personally, I would just keep looking for Euro JPY to pump. All right. I don't really trade Euro NZD. Euro AUD, I have a very similar objective to GA. GA, I told y'all I think these lows will get taken out, and then we'll probably see a reaction of some sort on the buy side. I think the same thing remains on what it is that I'm looking at now. I think we'll either get a reaction from this demand here or demand down here, from here or from here. But again, when you're using a strike rule, you can explore both options, right? You can explore both options if you're using good risk management and then using your strike rule properly, right? So just look for Euro AUD to start lower, clear out the lows that's directly to the left of it, and then we could start looking for some buyers potentially. All right. We already talked about Euro USD, Euro CHF. Not much to see there. Mm, I'd say it's not much to see on EuroCAD neither. I'm gonna just let those go. AUD bit overextended. Got knocked out on that one. I remember that one. Every trade ain't gonna be a win, y'all. Just you want your wins to outweigh the losses, but that's essentially all I'm doing, man. I'm looking for the low risk, high reward trade opportunities, not because I think I'm gonna be 100%, but because it's gonna protect me for when I'm wrong. All right. All right. So NZD CHF, I see something a little interesting here. I see a little area of internal liquidity there. Little area of internal liquidity here. We got a footprint here as well. I like that the market reacted right at that internal liquidity point because that's typically the sign of a move about to happen. All right. So I look here, we clear some highs out. Clear some highs out again. We push down, we retrace into that supply. We push down again, but we leave a little hesitation right there, right? So I'm gonna send this one out as a signal. So obviously here, market hesitates, makes new lows, right? So we use that as internal liquidity. Got a little footprint there as well. Few black candles with some decent size on them. And then so market reacts here, makes a new low. So here you got a hezzy crossover there, but you also got a smaller time frame hezzy up here. Ultimately, I just feel like this zone, this supply overall is gonna respect, right? But again, you want a lower time frame to refine your point of interest, right? Because I think this supply zone is gonna respect just off the strength of this hezzy crossover here. But like I said, you can go to the lower time frame and just refine it and look at those lower time frame ones as well. So I would say that, this market coming up here is a pretty good sign. Right. So what is that? So I'm looking for an ace entry here. All right. Give you a little breathing room. I'd say 8 pip stop should be good. Now, this is the type of trade you could drop a pretty good lot size on because the stop loss is so small, right? We're talking 8 pips here, and that puts us above the high, not even at the high. So you can go pretty heavy on this. It's not gonna hurt you, right? It's not gonna hurt you. But I say at 47.94, that's good. 47.94 and above. I'm gonna put it there and give you a 9 pip stop. 47.94 and above. I'm gonna send this sell limit to the group here momentarily. So keep your eyes open for that. All right. I think that's solid. Then you're on the higher time frames to the left. And there is. I'm glad because that just kind of helped add to the confirmation list for me. I liked it just based off what I saw right there, but even if I look over here, I like that as well, right? It's almost like another hezi as well, right? So you got like this hezi within the one that I marked up over to the left. So here you also have a footprint with a hezi crossover right here as well. So it's all lining up on a higher time frame, starting from the 4 hour going all the way down. So that looks good to me. Market started ranging here, manipulate, lower low, lower high, lower low. That's what we should get. All right. Yeah, I'll upload the call, no problem. You said gold retraced and took off. Okay. I thought you meant like since we've been on the call. It ain't done much since the call started, but overall, yeah, gold is flying right now. So that's why I say, like, if gold is about to go on another run like it did, um, last year, then it's time to buckle up. Now, Bitcoin, wow, Bitcoin is moving, right? Bitcoin is moving. I thought we might get one more sell-off. It didn't happen. All right, that's some good movement though. That's probably some of the best movement we've seen on Bitcoin in quite a while, right? Like literally since the market started dropping, this is like the most bullish like week that we've had on it. So that's a solid week. I was pretty impressed when I looked at my portfolio. I don't have it all and I don't have it all transferred back over yet, but I have enough to where I made some good gains, right? So I'm definitely happy about that. Um, I'll probably slowly transfer a little more into my wallet. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, our XRP is up 50% on the week, 40% on the month. So yeah, I had some good gains in my portfolio, but like I said, we ain't fully out the dark yet. It's a nice pump though. That's the best pump we done had all year, right? Literally. Like the market started dropping in October of last year. So we've been through just about a year, right? Like about 10 months of bearishness. And I think, market might be finally starting to wake up again. We'll see. All right, we'll see. Solana booming. Yeah, yeah. A lot of them booming, man. And a rising tide raises all ships. So if you want to get more aggressive gains, obviously the fluctuation is going to be more aggressive as well. But those cheaper coins gonna do you better, right? Because if from here to to new highs, you got 62% gain on Bitcoin, right? Now, obviously that's great, but if you looked at Ethereum or not Ethereum, but like let's say XRP, for XRP to get back to old highs, we talking 142%. So it's like the cheaper coin's gonna get you larger gains. You know what I mean? So, just be aware of that. Pretty sure Solana would do really well as well. And I was buying Solana too, so I'm glad Solana made a bump. I was.
That's that's my favorite coin, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mean to cut you off either, but that's my favorite coin. I love the project base behind Solana and what they're doing with that.
hmm And not only that, you can get just from where it currently is 200% back to the all-time highs. So, it's gonna be an interesting week for crypto, just to see if this is, a false flag. But I know Devin was also looking at this little pattern that we kind of spotted, and we looking for October, right? October is where I think we'll experience a nice boom, but not to say that it has to be accurate to the day. Even if it's a month or two early, you know, just this fall essentially is where I think crypto will bottom out, right? So I do think it's a good time to buy. All right. And I mean, just the fact that it's dropped as much as it has, if you're gonna buy from anywhere, I'd say, buy now rather than when the market is making new highs. Because I'll even admit I was doing that last year and thankfully, I was able to get out without taking much of a loss. I had a good friend of mine. He told me he sold like 100 plus Bitcoin. And I was like, "You sold them?" I said, "Why you do that?" He's like, "It's gonna drop. Trust me." And I'm at this time, I'm just buying every single week, and like above 100K as well. So I was fortunate enough to sell off most of mine and put it in the tether before the major drop off. But I mean, Bitcoin literally fell 50%. So it's on sale, like even after the last week momentum that came in, it's still at a major discount. So, this is a good area to buy for long term because if you hold it long term, it ain't like you need a perfect entry like you day trading. I think it's a good opportunity to start getting in though. All right. But overall, should be a very interesting week, man. Definitely expecting some volatility. Last week wasn't super volatile. Had a couple of days where the market moved and a couple of days where it didn't. Like Thursday, it was just really slow, right? So I'm curious to see what type of movement we get this week. Whatever the markets do, we're gonna be ready for it though. We're gonna be ready, we're gonna be locked in, and we're gonna be on top of whatever the markets throw at us. All right. So with that being said, I got a couple setups for you guys to start the week. Make sure your accounts are funded up. We're not only gonna make money on the live sessions, but signals as well. Just take them. Use good risk management, and that could just be that additional side money that you make. whether it's extra 500, extra thousand, extra couple thousand a week, whatever. But the key is to make sure you're taking the setups, right? Because you don't want to take one just because it lost, you skip the next one, and then that be the one that won, and now you mad. So now you double down on the third one, and then unfortunately the third one lose. Now you only took that losses, but you missed the wins. Like when it comes to signals, you have to really be on point with the way you execute, right? Good risk management, take all the trades, and that's how you really make money in a signals capacity. Other than that, obviously, we got live sessions this week, so just make sure you guys tap in. I'm looking forward to running it up with y'all again this week. Week before last was great. Last week was kind of up and down. We had a few wins, few losses, but again, I'm feeling real good about the markets this week because um, I feel like Nas is getting ready to go on a nice run. A couple of these other pairs as well. So I'm gonna be locked in. I'm gonna be ready. And this call will be going up momentarily on YouTube. So if you guys want to watch the recording just to get price points and stuff like that, feel free to do so. All right. So I appreciate y'all. Any comments, questions, or concerns before we wrap it up?